you have to understand the principle clearly enough to use it to your advantage. And one of the principles that's important to understand is when you feel like there's nothing you can do about it, that feeling is the result of a negative belief telling you that there's nothing you can do about it and you buying into it unconsciously.
So in a sense, it's like getting to the point where you don't empower negative beliefs and believe that they're stronger than your positive beliefs.
Because that's another belief, isn't it?
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, the next question is, I'm eager to know who is vocally channeling through me. This individual is saying that, and that they sense the presence of this energy around them all the time. They also wonder if the fatigue they're experiencing is a result of the energy's presence.
If you're not used to higher frequency energies, yes, you can be tired by processing it. We would suggest that for right now, you allow yourself, if you're going to do vocal channeling or something of that nature, automatic writing or what have you, that you simply continue to practice without wondering who it is right now, as long as the information coming through you is positive and constructive, self-empowering for others and not controlling. Don't worry about the source right now. Allow yourself to know that your higher mind is involved, spirit guides are involved, your soul family is involved, your angelic beings are involved, your team is involved, your non-physical team is involved in some way, shape, or form. ETs may be involved, extra dimensionals may be involved, elementals may be involved eventually as well. But the idea is to practice getting used to clearing out any negative fear-based beliefs, any erroneous definitions that may be inhibiting your ability to process higher frequency energy and information, and just let it flow through you and don't worry about what's coming out right now or who it is. Those are details that will reveal themselves in time. Again, as long as you feel that the information in some way, shape, or form is beneficial, not controlling, but self-empowering to yourself and others, and giving you an opportunity to grow and learn lessons that are important for you in your life, then just keep practicing.
And our next question is, what does excitement feel like? I've been able to differentiate between anxiety and my neutral excitement through my intentions at the time, but it seems like an unnecessarily long process of elimination. Is this high vibe state of following my excitement supposed to feel neutral, or should it feel, as commonly put, exciting?
It can feel either way. As we have said, even a neutral state is a positive state because it allows you the freedom to make a choice. The idea is, again, to know that acting on your passion doesn't mean you have to be jumping up and down. It can be a state of very calm acceptance and gratitude and appreciation. It can be a very meditative state. It can be a state of contentment, contemplation, many different kinds of experiences. But you just have to know that what you're choosing is truly in alignment with what you prefer, that it represents who you really are. That's really the thing to focus on. Then whatever feeling comes with that will contain whatever energies it needs to contain to bring you awareness of the lessons you need to learn and bring you clarity about what it is you're actually choosing and whether it is in alignment with who you prefer to be.
Thank you. This one is, could you please elaborate about how this reality actually functions? I've heard you say that this reality is not real. Each of us is sitting in a room by ourselves talking to our own higher selves. If every person we interact with on this planet is our own version of them, do we ever actually interact with any real souls, or is everything just a reflection that each of us manifests?
Everything in physical reality is a reflection of what you're manifesting, but you are interacting with real souls. It's just that in physical reality, you are interacting with your version of them, your creation of them, in the same way that when you talk to someone over your computer or your telephone, you are interacting with an electronic representation of them. So you're still interacting with a real being, but when you see somebody on your computer screen, you're not interacting with the actual being in that moment. You're interacting with an electronic presentation, an electronic representation of them. So it's sort of like that. The idea that physical reality isn't real doesn't mean the experience isn't real, doesn't mean the connection isn't real. It's simply the methodology that we're describing about how you make that interface. We're simply saying the interface, in a sense, is one step removed just because that's the nature of how physical reality is created. It's like you're creating a screen and receiving your version through your belief system filters of what that person represents to you, what that being represents to you, and they're doing the same with you. But you're still interacting with real beings on a higher level. It's just that you're deciding that you're going to interact with each other through this filter for the purpose of getting in touch with your belief systems and what you need to experience on your life path. That's just the way it works in physical reality because you're creating the simulation. So that's what you're doing is you're using the simulation to get a reflection of what it is you're putting out so you can use it as a guideline to figure out what you need to focus on. But you're interacting with real souls, of course.
So why do people manifest things like abandonment, or being in love with someone that's not in love with them, or
A
all kinds of
million
things?
different reasons. Again, case by case. Everyone has a different life path and everyone is learning different lessons. You have to take it on an individual basis. I can't give you a general answer that addresses every single case that you're bringing up.
So in the sense of having the attitude to have that you're manifesting things where people aren't cooperating the way you want, or whatever the behavior is from people you care about that is not supportive of what you prefer, what is the best way to look at that in terms of how physical reality works?
Well, first and foremost, always check in with yourself to make sure that you don't have expectations based on fear-based or negative beliefs that are out of alignment with the lessons you really need to learn in a situation like that. Secondly, you can observe that maybe the other people involved are also learning their lessons and need to look at certain things for themselves as well, and that you're working this out with each other by processing and communication and whatever processes you need to go through to gain clarity about what the interaction is all about and why you are experiencing it in the way that you're experiencing it. But always, first and foremost, check in with yourself to make sure that you're not insisting and that your expectations are realistic and truly representative of what's going on, that are the things you need to learn for your life path. Then you can investigate, perhaps, if the other people are willing, what's going on in their life path. But always start with yourself.
So the attitude to take whenever you're encountering beings in your life that are not in the relationship the way you prefer is to
Always, as
just
we have said, in the simplest possible way, you always check in with yourself first and say, is there something in this situation that helps me understand more about what I'm putting out? If you truly have an honest self-assessment that it has nothing to do specifically with lessons that you need to learn about your own belief systems, then you might next, as a next step, say, all right, well, maybe I'm here to reflect to them something that they need to understand to help them with their life path and their life lessons and their belief systems. But usually in your society at this point in your evolution, it's going to be something that works in all directions for all people concerned. There is always something each person can get out of it to learn about what they need to learn to become more of who they truly are. That's why relationships are so important to understand as reflective to each other to help each other become more of who you actually are. It's very rarely only in one direction. There's always something every party in a relationship can learn for their own life path.
okay, maybe this is the same idea, but this person is asking, are the challenges, trauma, and relationship issues we experience solely our own creation, or do others, circumstances, situations play a role? Is anyone truly at fault, or is there a better way to view the interconnectedness of it all?
We would not use the term at fault. We would use the term life path choices to learn lessons to help your soul grow. So it depends upon the facility that you have to divine what those lessons are, absorb them, and learn them that gives you greater and greater clarity and more expansion in your consciousness by understanding that whatever scenario is happening, there is something you can get out of it that has to do with your life path, and that your life path is always intertwined with other life paths as well, in the way that we've already described reflectively. No one is isolated. All life paths are interconnected. And the idea is to get out of it what you need to learn for yourself and to help the others also get out of it what they need to learn for themselves. But always start with yourself and what you need to learn.
Okay. And can you please share your perspective on compassion? In this person's country, the word is primarily associated with sympathy and pity. While they've never fully resonated with that definition, they find it difficult to separate compassion from feelings of pity. How can you understand that and experience it in a way that is more aligned?
Use the analogy of a parent and a child. When a child doesn't understand something yet, they haven't learned a certain lesson yet, they haven't learned how to navigate certain things in physical reality. Do you sympathize? Do you pity them? No. You have compassion that they are on a learning path. You love them no less, and you hold a space for them and teach them how to learn those things in a constructive and positive way. That's the feeling. You understand that they are on a path where they have chosen to learn certain things in a certain way. You hold a positive, loving space for them to be able to do so. That's what compassion is. You look beyond the idea of what may appear to be momentary and temporary limitations to the broader and bigger picture that they're on a path of learning certain things, and you don't pity a child for not knowing them. You have the largesse and the compassion to create a space for them in which they are invited to grow and to learn, and to see them as powerful souls that have chosen these lessons, that have chosen this life path to learn those lessons in that way. Pity is not necessary and is not involved when you have compassion for others. So think about the analogy of a loving parent and a child. That may help you.
And on your level, do you experience pity at all?
No. Why should we?
The next question is discussing problems or issues in the world inherently negative or disempowering? Does talking about these topics give them reality, or is it more beneficial to focus on positive and trust in the perfection of things?
Well, why can't you do both? Why isn't it this and that instead of this or that? It's not about avoidance. It's about constructive conversation, constructive and positive communication about the things that you think are important to change in your society. Avoiding them isn't the issue. You can focus on what you prefer, but that doesn't mean you avoid the idea that you're still part of a society that is dealing with certain issues and that you can add your own constructive point of view that may, in fact, help the situation be resolved in a positive and constructive way eventually. So it's not about avoidance. It's about inclusion. It's about communication. It's about willingness to participate and be involved because you're part of a society that is dealing with issues that need resolution. But come at it from a positive and constructive point of view, knowing what is possible, knowing what is probable, knowing what could be more beneficial. But the idea is engage, but engage in a positive way. It's not inherently negative to discuss things that themselves might be negative. if you approach it from the idea of how can we make this more positive and more beneficial for all. So, of course, it's the style of the approach that makes the difference. Remember, again, it's not about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens that makes the difference. So, it's not about the idea that you're discussing things that might inherently have been created negatively that pulls you into negativity or reinforces the negativity. It depends on how you approach it, of course.